My name is Mary Schusterbauer, and I'm currently the chairperson of, I used to work for Youth Assistance, so wipe that out. I'm currently the chairperson of Fair Ferndale, which many of you know as Citizens for Fair Ferndale. We are evolving. I think if you've seen city council meetings, you've seen me talk about that a little bit. Somebody asked me today, well, should I refer you today as Citizens for Fair Ferndale or Fair Ferndale? I said, just refer to us, make sure you remember us, we don't really care. Okay, so one of the first things I want you to do is mute your phones. It's really nerve-wracking to be a candidate, so please mute the phones. But also, it's nerve-wracking for me, so mute your phone. So, I'm going to give you the teeny tiniest history of Citizens for Fair Ferndale, which we used to be called. Back in 1991 and 2000, Ferndale tried to pass a human rights ordinance, which included sexual orientation. And boom, things went wild in our community. There was hate literature being passed out, there were all sorts of things that went on so that the ordinance did not pass. There were a group of us who said, this isn't the kind of community we want to live in. So we gathered very informally and said, what can we do in the meantime? Like, we weren't in charge of any elections, but we wanted to do things that would create a fair Ferndale so that the next time there was an election, most likely that ordinance would pass. So the human rights ordinance actually did pass in 2006, and we cheered and jumped up and down and felt like our efforts had helped some. So then we said, well, okay, well, maybe we're done, we can just disband. And we said, well, no, there are lots of isms in the world, and we would like to be here to attack those things. So I won't go on and on, but on each of your chairs, there is a little sheet that talks about who we are and what it is we do. And one of the things we pride ourselves on is making it easy for people in the Ferndale community to find out information about their community. And so a candidate forum like this fits right in with our objectives. And for those who asked, I just want to throw this in. We said that we would live stream this on Facebook, but then we were like stutter-stepping. We weren't sure if we were going to get that done. And yes, we are. It's live streamed, and it will be on our website later, fairferndale.org. So you can tell all your friends to watch it. And then I just want to mention real briefly something we have coming up on November 12th. We have an evening presentation about understanding neurodivergence. If you look at all of our categories that we protect, they're the same ones that are in the human rights ordinance in the city. And so the thing about understanding how people think in a variety of ways, we feel fits right in. So November 12th, watch for some information about that. So at this point, I'm going to turn the whole thing over to our moderator. We have imported, we're paying her mileage because she drove from Hazel Park to be our moderator. So Barbara Winter is going to be the moderator. During the forum, you have cards, you can write whatever questions you have, and Amy and I will be picking them up and making sure they get screened so we don't send 10 of the same questions up, and we'll be giving them to Barbara. So Barbara, do you want to take over and talk about the rules? Yeah, this is going to go. Okay.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Fair Ferndale. Thank you, candidates. Thank you, everyone, for coming. My name is Barbara Winter. I will try to do my best to, keep into the rules. And the rules are as follows. The questions are coming from all you, and we have two lovely, amazing human beings who are going to screen for duplicates, for, if they are not readable. Sometimes we were blessed with, pharmacy writing, right, and it's really difficult to read. But all questions will come to me, and then, you will group them. I cannot promise that we will get to all of them. And how the forum will go, there will be each candidate in alphabetical order will have 3 minutes opening remarks. Then each candidate, we will rotate for each question, so not every person answer as first. And then they will have 2 minutes. And then at the end, there will be closing remarks in the reverse alphabetical order the opening was, and it will be 2 minutes for each candidate. It's fantastic that the first letter in alphabet is M. So we will start with Ms. Aurora Mikulski, but we have also a lovely timer, Emil, who is going to let candidates know how they're doing on time. Sometimes 3 minutes, depends on the side of the doors of the bedroom you are, right? 3 minutes are always different on each side of the door. So you will be showing them 30 seconds, 30 seconds, and 15 seconds, and I will allow a few seconds to go over, but we will try to keep it to the time. As the invitation said, we're here from 2 to 4, so I'm envisioning closing remarks will not start later than 3:40, but they can start a little bit sooner. So with the further ado, you have 3 candidates who are brave enough to put their names on the ballot and put their names and running for City Council in Ferndale. There are 3 candidates for 2 openings, and we're going to start with Ms. Laura. Please start your 3 minutes remarks.
Absolutely. Can everybody hear me? Yes. All right. Laura Mikulski. I am the current mayor pro tem. I am a backyard chicken keeper. I'm a Ferndale resident. I'm a mom to a first grader, and I'm somebody that's been working for quite some time in Ferndale to make Ferndale a better place. I want to take you all back to 2019 when I first sort of emerged in the political scene. You may not have heard of me at that time, unless you were one of the unlucky folks that were dealing with rats in your yard. Back then, I wasn't really a politician. There are days that I still don't know if I'm a politician, but I am a resident who gets answers. I'm somebody that raises concerns about anything that is happening within our town. I'm somebody that listens to our residents. At the time, I was very concerned about the looming expiration of the head of the override, which obviously we've already dealt with. I was also concerned about developers that were being prioritized over residents, or what at least felt like it was a real prioritization and a disinvestment from what the residents wanted for development. And I was desperately concerned about the fact that we were divesting from the Kulik Center. I was looking for any council member who would listen to me at that time, who wouldn't brush me off, who would communicate proactively, and who would have the courage to engage in tough conversations instead of avoiding them. And when I couldn't find it, I decided to become it. I ran in 2019 as nobody, no titles, no endorsements, just the stubborn belief that leadership means showing up. Some people call me the rat lady, some people call me the chicken lady. I love that I'm still both of those this day. Anyway, I ran and I won. Not because of my experience, but because people saw that I cared enough to knock on the doors, to talk to them, to listen to them, and engage with them, and really help them with the things that they were concerned about. So let's fast forward to present day, 2025. My daughter still calls me the backup mayor. She loves that, loves telling her friends about it. I still lose sleep over some of the decisions that we make at council and some of the things that come to the table. But I can tell you as a person that's invested in this community, as somebody who lives here, somebody who lives and breathes this town, I want to make sure that we govern with integrity, fiscal prudence, transparency. Those aren't just talking points. Those should be the way that we act as a council body. We should be that team. I fought for cost cutting. I fought for efficiency. More than anything, I try to stay human in the process, to listen, to keep my ego out, basically to remember that public service isn't about titles and endorsements. It's about showing up for your neighbors. It's about having their back. And it's about earning their trust every single day, not just during campaign season. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Eddie Sabatini, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Fair Ferndale, for organizing this and Ferndale Library for hosting today's forum. Your commitment to civic engagement is inspiring. Thank you, neighbors, for being here. Your presence is what makes local democracy work. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge Lauren Quinn. Public service may be a shared passion, but public life is not easy. I deeply respect their choice to step forward and contribute to this important process. Many of you may know my campaign began with the fight to save the Kulik Community Center. I didn't wait for someone to act, I started a petition. Within days, hundreds of neighbors joined in. A grassroots effort grew into a citywide coalition that put Kulik back on the map and reminded us what happens when the community leads. Some have suggested I don't have the right experience, but I've done what I've done here in Ferndale is exactly the kind of leadership City Council needs. I hit the ground running. I've been a teacher of all ages, managed teams and budgets at an automotive publication, and worked with companies and lawyers to move complex projects forward on time and under budget. I've led diverse groups, navigated tough conversations, and delivered results. Combine that with years of nonprofit work, volunteerism, and deep research into our city's policies, and I know I bring both passion and the preparation to serve effectively. Looking ahead, I have clear priorities to improve quality of life for our residents, including to better include and allocate resources to our often underrepresented east side, making sure every part of Ferndale thrives, to create a health and wellness commission to strengthen the well-being and longevity of our residents, and to aggressively pursue grants and work with Lansing to grow our budget so that we can build the Ferndale we deserve without overburdening residents. These aren't just abstract ideas. I have tangible plans to make them real, and I hope for the opportunity to share those plans with you in more detail today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Quinn Ziegler, please.
Hello, so I am Quinn Ziegler, I'm running for City Council. First, thank you to Fair Ferndale for hosting us today, and again to the library for having us here. And thank you to all of you for coming out on this gorgeous Sunday afternoon. So caring for our community is an act of love. And I look around this afternoon and I see so many of you who are giving back to the community. Whether you're serving on commissions, whether you're involved in a nonprofit, these acts of service are how we care for each other and the place that we call home. When my family first moved to Ferndale, I found out about the Environmental Sustainability Commission. I didn't know anyone else here, and I thought, well, those are my people. So I went to a couple of meetings. They had a vacant seat at that time, so I applied, and I was appointed in 2019. I'm still on that committee today. Getting involved then led to even more opportunities. Since then, I have also served on the Master Land Use Plan Steering Committee, as well as the Facilities Task Force and the Finance Review Committee. And these experiences have really opened my eyes to how complex city government can be, but also the tools that we have available to care for our community together. I've gained real insight into Ferndale's financial situation and the challenges that we face in keeping our core services strong, growing our existing services, and cutting unnecessary expenses. I'm committed to making government operations more transparent so that we can all become more engaged neighbors. Because I've been involved, I'm thankful for the support of Ferndale residents during my campaign. I'm happy to say that 92% of the donations that I have received are from people that live here in Ferndale or Sheet Metal Local 80, which represents some Ferndale labor. Speaking of our workers, my top priority is addressing the poor conditions of our public safety buildings. We have deferred maintenance for these buildings for too long, and now we're at the point where we either pay for improvements or we pay for the continued churn of hiring and training good people, only to see them turn around and leave a few years later. The community center, of course, has been a hot topic this year. Residents, including myself, want a place to gather together. We want more programming for our seniors, for our children, and for everyone that is in between. We also have to make sure that we're doing the basics well. That means code enforcement, fiscal responsibility, and just making sure someone answers the phone when you call City Hall. As for me, I want to continue investing my time, taking what I've learned as a volunteer, studying these complex issues, and put them to work for you on City Council. With your support, I will bring my experience and work ethic to care for a place we can all call home.
Thank you very much. And we're going to dive into the first question, and we're going to start with Mr. Sabatini to answer it. And the question is, what can the city do to make the short-term rentals more compatible with neighborhoods? And I would expand, is it neighborhoods of Ferndale? How can we tackle it? And you have 2 minutes, sir.
Short-term rentals, yes. I've been talking on this topic with a lot of folks at the doors. And so I dug a little bit deeper into it. It's ordinance number 1258. And according to our assistant city manager, James Krazan, we currently have 212 short-term rentals in Ferndale, many with them set to expire within a 2-year period. Now, if you want to check the number of STRs on your block, you reach out to City Hall, and the ordinance says that in theory, it would be less than 5% of the number of residential units in the city can be short-term rentals. So, for example, there's 30 houses on your block, 5% of that would be 1.5, and what we could do is we could look at the ordinance and see, do we want to change that? Do we want to adjust it? I think code enforcement is another good way to hold absentee landlords accountable. And if you believe that there are more STRs on your block than permitted, or if there is blight or too many parties, just issues that you and your neighbors are finding, you reach out to code enforcement.
Thank you very much. Ms. Ziegler, can I repeat the question?
I'm good, thank
Okay.
you. So, short-term rentals or things like Airbnbs, they're really tricky. And they cause issues for neighbors, right? They're contributing to a housing shortage that are also increasing the cost for the other housing units that are available. Now, we can't outlaw them because we're restrained by state law, but we can try to regulate. We do have the short-term rental ordinance, but it is hard to enforce because it relies on people being honest and actually reporting that they're running a short-term rental out of their home. So we do need to make it easier to report, hey, I have an unregistered Airbnb or whatever it is on my street. We do have limited code enforcement capacity, so by adding another code enforcement officer, that would enable folks to enable code enforcement to respond to issues more quickly. And then one thing that we can do is advocate to our state legislators to make changes so that we can enforce rules and regulations around short-term rentals more effectively. And then advocacy and partnership with other communities is also important. I've been talking with our council members out in Pleasant Ridge. They are working on a short-term rental ordinance right now, so they can look at ours, and the same way that they're looking at ours, we can look at others to find out how we need to continue to improve our existing ordinance.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mikowski?
Great. First of all, thanks, Eddie. I could not remember the exact stuff that was in the ordinance. I will say I was one of the people that wrote the ordinance. I remember that we had limited it on a per block basis. Completely forgot that it was 5%. One small correction to what was said just recently. There are tools that we use at the city to basically look at the broad swath of short-term rentals that are registered on things like Vrbo, Airbnb. That tool is supposed to be going out there and parsing through all those listings to figure out, is that a registered short-term rental within the community or is it not? If it's not registered within the community, we are supposed to be going out and actually approaching those individuals to find out, is this truly a short-term rental, is it not, so that we can make sure that it is abiding by our ordinance language. Here's the challenge. We have a limited budget. We have limited code enforcement. We just lost our CED director. We have 2 code enforcers for the entire city. With that sort of limitation, even using technology to be able to look through the town and try to find these short-term rentals, it is difficult. The long-term impact that we see as a town is that these are taking away from housing stock, so there are less affordable housing opportunities. These are also impacting our census numbers. That can be a real issue. Some people are treating it like a business venture rather than supplemental income. What we need to do is try to find opportunities that help us get better code enforcement so that we can more properly regulate it the way that our ordinance intends. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. The second question we're going to start with Ms. Ziegler. Do Do you feel like flock cameras are good for our community? Please explain why or why not.
Yeah, so flock is one of the hardest issues facing our community today, and I have my answer in the questionnaires at the back of the room. All of the candidates have sort of answered this question. As I was beginning the process of running, I sat down with Police Chief Emmy. I had a long conversation with him about flock cameras. And while all indications are that Ferndale Police Department is using the cameras appropriately and how they are intended to be used, there are some serious issues, right? And I do want to recognize that they have helped solve serious crime, including the murder of a DoorDash driver earlier this year. But there are two major concerns that I can't ignore when it comes to flock. So the first is that the ACLU has reported that flock is now introducing artificial intelligence to help identify suspicious behavior. So I don't want to see our tax dollars going towards a technology that's intended to create suspicion. Second, while Ferndale has put safeguards in place, we can't guarantee that the federal government will not be able to access this technology, even against our will. And so in today's political climate, the risk is real, and it endangers vulnerable people in our communities, including immigrants and those exercising their reproductive rights. And as an immigrant myself and a woman, this hits close to home for me. So I cannot support continuing the contract. Caring for our community does mean protecting us from crimes, but it also means dismantling the tools that can be used to oppress us.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mikowski?
Well, my 2 no votes on the flock contract should kind of inform you as to what my position might be. It did recently come back to council. We did have a small presentation from our police chief and flock representatives on the flock contract. Things that I pointed out. Back when we first voted on it in 2023, I told them there are 2 truths. Technology evolves, and privacy once lost is nearly impossible to regain. That is still true. That will always be true. I work with technology on a daily basis. I am the creepy side of the internet that happens behind every website that you visit. I track you where you go, I remarket to you, I do all this stuff. I can see all the things. Flock is very similar. It's less about the cameras. The cameras are just hardware, they're just cameras. It's more about the software. The software started as one thing, it is evolving into something else. And what it's evolving into is essentially a large dragnet, and that dragnet can be used in very nefarious ways. I actually ran the numbers through our network access audit that was provided by our PD. There were places all across the country accessing our data. Texas, our federal government, the ATF, everybody that wanted to access it could access it. And what they could access it for was something that we couldn't regulate, even though we had an ALPR policy that said we only wanted people who agreed to our rules and to our ethics to be able to access that data. We had folks accessing the data for immigration purposes, ICE purposes. One that said hamburger. I don't know what it means. It could mean anything. So this is a no vote for me. I don't think the technology in terms of cameras itself is a negative, but I think this system, their contract language sucks, the way that it's been used sucks, and it's not something I support.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sabatini?
Yeah, I think it's pretty simple. It's no, we don't want this in our neighborhoods. Flock, first of all, is the company that owns this technology. It's a privately owned giant data company, and it's unregulated, and they're after the bottom line, no matter what they tell you about how they want to protect us and keep us safe. So ALPR technology, advanced license plate reader technology, is a little bit different than, or it's what Flock is selling us. We shouldn't be sacrificing our public safety. We shouldn't be sacrificing our civil liberties for our public safety. Our government should not be tracking us. We should not be helping organizations like ICE gather up residents and remove them from our country. We are the good neighbor city, and we should act accordingly. I mean, there's a lot more on this, but I think it's really simple. It's a no. It's a no. It's a no for me every time, all day, every day.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the third question, we're going to start with Mikulski, and I'm sure there was no surprise in anyone in the room that we got a plethora of questions regarding the Kulik Center. So and they came from all the angles. What are your plans? What is necessary? Will you collaborate? How are we going to pay for it? So I'm going to give 2 minutes, but only 2 minutes, free range for each candidate to tell us, their Kulik Center, community center story. And we start with Ms. Laura.
Okay. I ran in 2019 on the Kulik Center. I believe that we needed third place. I watched us divest from it through the years. And when I say divest from it, I'm going to give you a little short sampling from a comment that I made to our former mayor, Craig Covey, who I love to death, but he happened to step into a hornet's nest one day. Here's the situation. In 2008 to 2010, we were looking at the Kulik Center, looking at its needs. In 2018, Dave Coulter put into place a task force to examine Kulik's needs. And with that task force, basically recommending to divest from Kulik and build something new. I was ticked. I'm still ticked. I fought against it. I wanted to invest in what we had into a building that we hadn't invested in years. Years that included times like in 1999 and 2002, they came before the Kulik and said that we needed to do some cosmetic investments, $75,000 for carpet and flooring, some workout equipment. There were red flags being raised that entire time about the boiler at that time being 30 years old, back in November of 2015. And at the time, they recommended that we replace it for $112,000, which is now like $500,000. Knowing all of that, I looked through the notes. I have found a path forward based on the facilities assessment that we have back from, I want to say 2021. It's about $2 million in critical investments. $2 million is essentially close to what we're spending on just a new, smaller facility in Martin Road Park, of which we had grant money that was supposed to be dedicated to the Kulik Center. I want us to get back into this building desperately. We need the third place. We know that it serves a vital function for heating and cooling, for our seniors, for our kids, for even adult programming. And we have the capacity to do it through incremental change, rather than knocking something down and rebuilding something new. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mrs. Latini?
Would you mind reminding me repeating the question, because there was a couple parts?
Yeah, no, so there was not, we got a Kulik Center question from all angles. Plans, collaboration, money, repairs, so I gave a free range to each of you, but only limited by 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I could talk about Kulik for 2 hours, 2 days, 2
No,
weeks.
she's not today.
Not today. And my daughters are sick of hearing about it. But I think the long and the short of it is, it's an incredibly valuable public asset that needs to remain in public hands. And that the district and the city are back at the table negotiating a land swap, something I'm incredibly excited about. I'm incredibly grateful for the leadership that the school district and the city are showing, their willingness to collaborate. It's incredibly inspiring, as is how we got here, just community advocacy. I have organized the community, circulated a petition, presented it to the Board of Education, presented it to City Council, and now they're back at the table. It's very exciting. I appreciate Laura bringing up the history of it, because it is important. But I don't think any of us are looking to let blame on how we got here. We're here. Let's look for a path forward. And I think that Laura's pointing out of the facilities assessment and the modest incremental approach to funding this is very exciting, one that I wholeheartedly support. And then once we identify with the community's input, I think that's very important, on what our community center looks like, then we start talking about programming. And for funding that, we need to get creative. We need to look at all sources. We can look at grants. We can, look at what we have in the general fund, right? There's a path forward. This $2 million that Laura quoted, I've read that in the same facility summary. It also includes some environmental upgrades that it's a smaller investment up front, but what it would end up resulting is some real savings long term in facilities maintenance and operational costs. So, as well as being good for the environment, something I obviously take very seriously, being endorsed by the Sierra Club. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Quinn?
So, like you, I've heard the number $2 million floated around, and because I was on the facilities task force and I've worked in facilities maintenance, that number actually doesn't sound right to me. And so I reached out to other experts, and I found out that DPW's own estimate for getting this building reopened is about $10 million. So the facilities condition assessment had $2.9 million in deferred maintenance backlog back in 2021. And I'd like to read you a little bit from the DPW's estimate. The facilities condition assessment was, quote, not intended to represent the actual cost for bringing the building into repair. Further, the condition assessment was not exhaustive. There are significant details that were left off. For example, things behind walls and ceiling tiles like ductwork and asbestos remediation were not measured or included. It goes on to say, well, that once you factor in inflation, renovations, and safety requirements like installing fire sprinklers, the total cost is around $10 million, which aligns with what we saw in the facilities task force report. But because these are big decisions, if the city does acquire the building from the school district, we need a robust conversation about what we want and how much we're willing to invest to make it a reality. That means laying out a whole variety of options, what they look like, the costs associated with them, and what the community can expect for major improvements down the road. We could do the bare minimum just to get the building open at the lowest cost and as soon as possible, but that might open us up to a cycle of expensive emergency repairs and piecemeal replacements. Or we could make a more significant change that gives us a building that would last longer, but is a little bit more expensive. We could do something in the middle. Ultimately, the decision of what investment is made, if any, rests with the voters, because grants alone are not going to cover it, and a bond will be needed.
Okay, thank you very much. Now we're starting with the fourth question, and it's Mr. Sabatini. What have you personally done, if anything, to preserve or protect LGBTQ+ rights in Ferndale?
That's a great question. I think it's as important as ever. I think it's not enough to be an ally. We need to be on the front lines and helping our neighbors in any and every way possible. I support affirmations and access on Allen. My wife has taught some group classes there, group therapy sessions that I support wholeheartedly. We need to continue to foster those relationships with the city and our nonprofits. We are doing great things with them already. We just need to make sure that we continue that. There are other organizations like Firm Care that we also partner with. One of the things that I would like to look into piloting is a health and wellness commission that would look at adding help and resources to these organizations, as well as our Accessibilities and Inclusion Commission and FIN. Just great organizations that if we add a health and wellness commission to, it's just an additional component that is aimed at helping our neighbors, making everybody feel like they belong, which is, again, as important now as it ever has been. I would also like to point out that communication is really a central piece of this. We need to be proactively engaging with the LGBTQ+ community to find out what is important to them as that changes over time. And we can do that through town halls, regular town halls, as well as my commitment to holding office hours, so that I'm always available for people to come talk to me and let me know what's on their mind, what they expect from their city councilors, and me personally.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Stickler?
So, probably about 20 years ago, I had a friend when I was in high school, and she was going through a tough time, and it wasn't until after I had actually moved away that I found out that she was part of the LGBTQ community. At that time, she didn't have a lot of support from her family, and I was very close with her and with her family. So it was difficult to be further away from her and not be able to support her in that. And it was hard for me when she finally announced that she was engaged. The communities that we have to support you, and you know, by that time it had been probably 15 years, so we weren't as close. But that was a really important way for me. Now here in Ferndale, I have helped Councilmember Donnie Johnson run for his election campaign. I have supported him. He is obviously one of our LGBTQ council members. I also, one of my other friends recently did an event at Affirmations where we all got together and wrote just simple, positive, encouraging messages on little cards that could then be included in binders and whatnot that would be sent out to young trans folks who needed a little bit of support and a little bit of encouragement. So that was a way to anonymously help some folks out. And I think creating some deeper partnerships with Affirmations and with some of the organizations around us is something that we can all work on and something that I definitely plan to continue doing.
Thank you very much. Mr. Council, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yeah.
Okay. What have you personally done, if anything, to preserve or protect LGBTQ plus rights in Ferndale?
Sure. So council has a legacy that is built, it's been built upon through the years, starting with folks like Craig Covey, Dave Holger, multiple people that have come before me, even one of our current council members, Greg Polika, who have built into the framework of our council body things like our, I believe we have a human rights ordinance. We have multiple things that have basically, we banned conversion therapy within Ferndale. I think that was back in 2019, if I'm not mistaken. But beyond all of that, we are, as a council body, we are reflective of the community that we serve. We fly the pride flag in our council chambers all the time. It's not just during Pride Month. During some of the darker times in the pandemic, and I'm staring at you, Oscar, we had to get together a whole body of individuals, community leaders for a conversation at Affirmations because of the hate speech, the dark blot that was church militant over on Hilton Road. We're facing a very similar time right now. And getting the community back at the table, in town halls, in conversations on a regular basis, that should help steer us. Not just us working in a silo as a council body. This is about community. This is about the reflection of community, what the community wants, and how we can best serve. So that's my commitment to everyone. Build on the legacy and continue moving us forward.
Okay, thank you very much. This brings us to question number 5. We're going to start with Ms. Ziegler. What is your plan for keeping Ferndale an affordable place to live amidst rising real estate and rent costs?
I want to be realistic. That affordable housing is a national issue, right? We're not going to solve that here in Ferndale by ourselves. Michigan alone needs about another 100,000 units of housing. And there are only so many things that a city can control. We can control zoning to make affordable units, to make denser units, to make smaller units.
We can also control what happens with the land that the city itself owns. So what happens with it, who we sell it to, what incentives we might give to make it more affordable to build housing. In order to make more things like the Shepherd House possible, the Shepherd House is 100% affordable housing, the city does have to provide incentives, and those incentives for affordable and for workforce housing basically make up the difference between what the building owner could instead get in market rate rent, right? They're not doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. Affordability also happens in your own home. You want to be able to stay there. So in my professional work, I help residents make energy efficiency improvements in their home. Ferndale also has access to chore and grant support. So if you are a senior or an income eligible person, I do encourage you to check that out. I also always tell folks, on your tax bill, if you are living in your primary residence, make sure that you're getting your primary residence exemption, so that you're not paying those additional property taxes. And then there are also property tax exemptions completely for certain income eligible folks, as well as disabled veterans or those who are the surviving spouse of a disabled veteran. So if that is you, I encourage you to check those out as well.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mikulski?
I encourage you to
Of course. What is your plan for keeping Ferndale an affordable place to live amidst rising real estate and rent costs?
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Let's start by acknowledging there is market rate and there is subsidized. There's nothing in between. Period. Market rate, if we build enough of it in a theoretical world, the price should come down. Although, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but in our capitalist society, I have not seen any real traction with people producing more housing or producing more of anything and actually having the price come back down. So the lever that I have in a council body is subsidizing, right? So what we can do, like we did with Raymond Shepherd House, is we can find those developers who have the right ethics, have the right kinds of policies, and who want to work with the city so that we can incentivize their housing development. We can also do things like we did with 141 Investor, where we entered into very long conversations with them and negotiate things like a tax clawback when, if they are able to refinance. We negotiated affordable units within that facility as well. Beyond that, what we have done recently is we went through a new rezoning. In R1, we have allowed ADUs, which is accessory dwelling units. That can provide some additional housing. It's not much. It's not meant to be like a business venture or anything behind your home, but it is meant to supplement some of our housing. We've also opened up duplexes by right all throughout R1. It fits within the character of our neighborhoods. It's not going to incentivize, speculative investors to come in and knock down good housing stock and build something new that's just a duplex. Those are the ways that council can influence this, and those are things that I think we should continue having conversations about.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sabatini?
So we talked about some tools that we have here now already. The inclusionary zoning, that's a big one, as Laura just mentioned. We talked about it earlier with short-term rentals and holding Airbnbs and absentee landlords accountable, right? That's valuable housing stock that is being used as business ventures, as Laura pointed out, rather than, we need to free those up again. It's worth looking into. There are some things that we have to iron out in order to get there with the short-term rentals, but it's worth putting that hard work in to do such. Excuse me. I think as important as it is in figuring out how to fund affordable housing is the models that we use to fund them or to create them, because we don't just want affordable housing; we want sustainable affordable housing. I would really love for us to look at community land trusts and a co-op housing model, because those don't just address affordability, they address ownership, which is very exciting to me. Is it easy? No. It's definitely worth looking into though, and I think Ferndale is the kind of place where we could do something like that. We've got Ann Arbor, I think, is a great example of who we can talk to about executing this, and I'd be very excited to work on something like that.
Okay, thank you very much. This brings us to question number 6. We're going to start with Ms. Mikowski. And accidentally, if you already touched on it, the next question is about promoting and expanding business quarters in Ferndale, downtown Ferndale. In the same note, are there any plans, or do you envision the need for looking at the zoning ordinance and zoning updates that all 3 of you touched might be helpful to affordable and attainable housing? So if you can, in 2 minutes, discuss zoning or expanding the downtown, like how to attract businesses outside of downtown Ferndale.
Yeah, so a couple thoughts. We just passed the zoning. I don't think anybody on council is currently ready or prepared to revisit something that took, at least a year to put together, even though I was not thrilled with the final adjustment that we put forth. And that final adjustment was including quads, broadly speaking, through R1, but those were not by right, those were by special land use. When we talk about zoning, I don't know if everybody knows the acronyms, there's the downtown corridor, so like Central Business District, we've got MXD, and then we have R2 in the surrounding area. The general thought is we focus our business efforts into getting both housing as well as business in combinations around transit corridors. So in your downtown areas, along Woodward, along Hilton, along Livernois, so major arteries of the city where it makes sense, where you're going to have good accessibility, where you can be connected to resources, mobility resources, buses, bike lanes, things like that. Beyond that, honestly, there's a part of me that looks at our downtown and our downtown development authority, and I wonder if we have the right focus, because we have a DDA director who has been doing wonderful things like having events in our downtown and implementing new mural programs and beautifying and things like that. There's a part of me that wants that person to try to act in a business development capacity, and I think that's the missing link that we've been looking for when we have all these empty spaces. There's nobody working to fill them beyond us just being a beautiful community, a desirable community. I think we actually need a human who can go out there and make connections and try to drum up real interest in those spaces and move it forward so we don't have these empty spaces anymore.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sabatini, would you like me to rephrase or reread the question or recreate the question from 5 questions?
Yes.
Essentially we're asking about the appetite of new rezoning, extending downtown and attract businesses to open not only in downtown Ferndale.
Yes, yeah, it's an exciting one. And I think it also speaks to, people want to keep Ferndale funky and fabulous and attract businesses that fit in with our ethos, right? And I don't think we can ban chains, Laura, probably not. But we can use tools like Plan Ferndale and zoning and in order to sort of curate the sort of businesses that we attract. There's also just simply supporting our local businesses, right? I've been speaking with a lot of business owners on Livernois and Hilton about launching something that already exists and did a really cool thing at bringing the community of local businesses together. It was called the FBA, the Ferndale Business Association. It was a nonprofit aimed at supporting local businesses with the goal of spreading the vibrancy that we know and love on 9 Mile and Woodward to the other corridors of Livernois, Marshall, Hilton, and beyond. It can result in more things like the Harvest Festival that we just saw in Livernois, something that was pioneered by the local businesses and that I was proud to support. So I think something like an FBA would really help to show those local businesses that we're here, we're advocating for you, we're rooting for you, and that excitement, that energy, that collaboration, that inclusivity will spread and attract more businesses. The other thing that we want to look at is expanding resources equitably, right? Plan Ferndale talks about how we want to be a walkable city. A walkable city helps us to better patron our local businesses. And a lot of folks, I happen to agree, there's a disconnect between the east side and the west side. And doing things like improving sidewalks, expanding sidewalks over there. If you try to walk to Ferndale Project right now, you're going to be walking over some business grasses and uneven terrain. So let's look at that. Let's look at strengthening infrastructure to bridging a gap between east and west. And I think we could do a lot of cool things.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Eagle?
I love our small businesses. You know, when I talk to people at the doors, a lot of times the first thing they mention is the walkability and how much they love being able to walk to our small businesses, whether that's here on 9 Mile or on Livernois or on Hilton. Our small businesses are facing increasing challenges, right? There are rising costs. There's even scams, as we heard in the news recently. So one of the biggest things that we can do to help our small businesses is getting people in the door. And something that I've seen work really well in another city is they have a very similar downtown to some of our corridors, where it's a lot of small businesses in a short walkable area. And right before Mother's Day and right before Christmas, they do a cookie tour. And so there are, 40 or 50 businesses. You go in, you get like a little quarter-sized cookie, and it sounds kind of hokey, but lots of people come out to this because it's also gift buying season, right? People are going in looking for a Mother's Day gift or a Christmas gift. They're also, I can't tell you how many times I went back to that neighborhood after the cookie tour because I remembered, oh, I need to get something, and I saw that store there that one time. So I'm going to go back, and now I'm going to buy something again. So we need to get more people in the door. We also need to encourage more mix of stores. Something else that I've heard from a lot of folks is there's a fear that maybe there are too many bars or restaurants, and we want more diversity, more shopping, more retail, those sorts of things. We also need to look to expand those opportunities on Hilton and on Livernois. Things like pop-ups to activate some of those vacant storefronts could help as well. We also need to help business owners reduce their costs. So like I said, I do work in energy efficiency, so helping them reduce costs there, or business loans or grants to help them run their business more efficiently. Small business is absolutely part of what makes Ferndale better, and I want to see it succeed.
Thank you very much. Now, question 7, we're going to start with Mr. Sabatini. Do you have any plans/ideas for making Ferndale bike lanes more safe?
I don't have any plans. I have ideas. I've been speaking with some experts on bike lane design and biking safety, and some of the issues that we face, specifically on the Woodward bike lanes, is just some of the details in the execution. So the fact that it's 2 lanes of bike traffic on both north and southbound Woodward. It just creates confusion and dangerous situations for both the bikers and the commuters, drivers. The other issue that was pointed out to me is that there's not enough of a barrier between the edge of the bike lane and the cars driving alongside of it. So that is something that would need to be iterated on in order to maybe encourage more people to use it and cut down on potential accidents. The other thing that I think we're not over the learning curve yet of, at least not the folks that I've been talking with and myself personally, is when you're pulling out onto Woodward, you have to pull into the bike lane in order to make that turn. So the 2-way traffic poses a problem there, and the fact that there's no lights, no warning systems, really just it makes the learning curve a lot more dangerous, and maybe something we need to address before everybody is used to looking both ways, and maybe looking again a second and a third time before pulling out onto Woodward. The curvature of the lanes is another safety issue. You know, I don't know if it was, when it was initially put in, it was possible to make it a straight shot. I don't know if businesses were consulted when that was put in to see if there was an opportunity to expand patio space or maybe cut in a little bit to in order to make it more of a straight shot and therefore a safer ride. But there's a lot of things that we could do in order to make incremental improvements on them. I'm all for alternate forms of transportation. So let's take a look at them. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Booth?
Yeah, I was talking to a resident recently, and I asked him what he loves about Ferndale, and the first thing that he said was diversity. And then, because it was Dream Cruise weekend, he said that one of the things that he disliked was the Dream Cruise. And I was like, well, that's part of the diversity that is Ferndale, right? Like, some people like some things, some people don't like some things. And I think bike lanes are one of those things. I have been a very active cyclist. I have biked to work for many, many years. And I get it, right? Like, being on a bicycle is scary, and being a driver around a cyclist is scary. And so I think what we're facing is this conflict. I do think that we need to have better data. So one of the things that I think the city could do better, specifically around bike lanes, but it applies to all projects, is measuring the states before and after a change is made. So if we are going to put in bike lanes, before we did the Woodward project, we should have collected data. How many drivers are using it? How many pedestrians? How many cyclists? Now, how has that number changed after? Are we seeing more crashes? Are we seeing fewer crashes? Are there fewer pedestrian crashes? Part of the change on Woodward was to make the streets safer for pedestrians too. And I know for me, crossing Woodward on foot, I do feel a little bit safer now that it's got a little bit fewer lanes and sight lines are better at the corners. Well, we don't have that before and after data. So how do we know what to tweak? So I don't want us to take urgent action without full understanding of the issue.
Thank you very much. Mr. Foster?
So 2 days ago, somebody got catastrophically hit on Woodward. And I have been nervous about the bike lanes on Woodward. For full disclosure, I'm a terrible bicyclist. Terrible. I have the balance of a 90-year-old woman with a busted hip. So I'm not a bicyclist, but I believe in bicycling as a transportation mode within our city, and I'm glad that we've invested in it. When we invested in Woodward, we went with good, better, best. We went with good. That's what we could afford. The end result is something that is going to enhance mobility. You can get from point A to point B in a new mode. The dual way of going up and down Woodward with, being able to go north-south on both sides of the road is complicated. It is causing some crashes. I'm not sure how to fix that. And that is me being full disclosure. I am not a traffic expert. That's why we use experts to help inform our decisions. Things that I do think we can do a little bit better, each and every time you see one of those delineators knocked down, $89, round up to $90 with some text. I think that there are ways that we can approach that a little bit better. They are a visual deterrent. It's good. That's meant to keep you visually safe and discourage drivers from driving off into the lane. The armadillos that we see, the little shorty guys up in Pleasant Ridge, those are about the same price. You need more of them to be able to effectively block the lanes. But if they're the same price and they don't break the way that our delineators do, that can be something that we can invest in the long term and potentially see a long-term cost savings, as well as a way to prevent these vehicles from going into that lane. I've even looked at things like concrete barriers. Concrete barriers are gold standard. If we can afford that, that's something that we should do. But it does come down to, again, money. How much are we going to be able to spend? We are going to be getting a little bit more in our road fund due to some state legislature and the new budget that was recently passed, so that is something that we can look into. But bottom line for me is, let's make them safe. We have to make them safe, and I am gutted anytime I hear about somebody getting hit. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Bear with me with this question. I had to reread it 5 times. Yeah, so I'm just going to read it. If you were not on the council at the time of the passing of the ceasefire proclamation, would you have supported a ceasefire resolution? For those that were on the council, is there anything you would like to have done differently during the time of that vote? I will start with Ms. Siegel.
I do support a resolution to end, for a resolution calling for an end to the violence and the suffering that we are seeing in Gaza. More and more people around the world, even experts, are saying that this now meets the definition of a genocide. And silence from public institutions only deepens that harm. So Ferndale does have a long history, as we've seen today, of standing for human rights and for compassion. And I do believe that it is appropriate to add our voice to that call. We also need to acknowledge that a city resolution is not going to change foreign policy. But it can show our federal legislators that ordinary communities like ours expect our representatives in Congress to use their influence to stop the killing, to ensure humanitarian access, and to support a lasting peace. And I think that's part of what it means to care for our community. It's not just caring for our community here, it's also caring for our global community.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mikowski, please. I can reread the question.
No, it's okay. So I was the one that wrote the ceasefire resolution, and if I had to redo it, I would call it a genocide, and I would say the word ceasefire explicitly in there. I see a lot of you in the audience that I recognize from that time period. It was intense. I value you for keeping us accountable. It was hard. I lost sleep. You made me paranoid. But thank God we had the conversations. I mean, it is a dark time in history. It is a horrible thing that is happening. As was mentioned, I don't expect that Ferndale is going to change foreign policy. It's not my job. My job is roads, water, fire police, DPW. Like the bare essentials to make sure that we are a functional city. But from an intentionality standpoint and representing the voices of our residents, we negotiated back and forth. I got you the best that I could get you at the time with the council body that we had. And like I said, if I could do it over again, maybe I could have pushed a little bit differently and gotten something a little bit better, but at least we are the only city in Oakland County who actually managed to pass one.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sabatini?
Yes. Simple. I don't like that my tax dollars are going to towards supporting this genocide, and we might not be able to impact policy, but we need to use all of the tools available to us to amplify the voices of our neighbors. We want to show our neighbors that we're standing with them and we care about what's happening to their families. The end.
All right. Thank you very much. And as a moderator, you empower me with a lot, and I believe I'm going to read the last question. We have the room till 4, but we can go and go and on and on. And the questions we got were so diverse. We tried to combine all of them. And you're going to have the candidates for another 40 minutes with one-on-one if we did not ask your question. I want to thank, before we go to the closing statements, I'm going to ask the last question. We're going to start with Mr. Eddie Sabatini. Which council, city council candidate or member are you most excited to work with and why?
All of them for different reasons. And I would look forward to working with Donnie Johnson because of his incredible experience and expertise in municipal budgeting and finance. I'd be excited to work with our mayor because of her well-documented track record and expertise in affordable housing. I'd be excited to work with Yolanda Kelly because of her community and business outreach. And I could go on and on and on. I mean, there's reasons I'd be excited to work with Laura and reasons why I'd be excited to work with Quinn.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Ziegler?
Yeah, so when I decided to run for council, the first thing that I did was I called the mayor and I called all of the council members and I said, hey, I want to let you know that I'm doing this. And they were all, the ones that I was able to talk to were all very supportive of that. I do think, Mayor Pro Tem Mikulski, you had, I had said that, I was not going to run against you if you did decide to run, and you were very supportive of me at that time. And I think, I really admire how prepared you always are, that you always have clearly done your research, and I think that's very admirable. I love the conversations that I've been able to have with the mayor. She knows just about everybody in this city, especially if they have any sort of relationship with the school district. So it's just a joy to work with her. I've already mentioned Councilmember Donnie Johnson and his expertise in finances. I've learned so much about how cities work and the challenges that they face there. Rolanda Kelly is great at reaching out to the community, so I do appreciate that as well. And then Mr. Sabatini, I think that you have been able to tap into some community energy as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. And Ms. Bukowski?
I want to work with everybody who's a team player. And I will tell you, when I first came onto council, I was elected back in 2019, took office in 2020, and it became very clear that you have one vote, and you have to work as a team. You have to communicate as a team. You have to build consensus. You have to have people who are actually willing to have hard conversations and not get defensive and not shut each other out. I endorse Eddie. I think the role of him, he's my guy. When he showed up on my doorstep, I was like, you're my guy, you can finally replace me, thank God, I can go sleep for like 4 years. But, Quinn, I think you too. I think everybody that puts their hat into the ring to do something like this, we're all doing it for a reason. You are very pragmatic, you're a good person, you're thoughtful. That's necessary as a council body. That's necessary as a council person. We all have to be able to work together. We all have to, at the end of the day, do the will of the people and be public servants. I love working with Donnie. Donnie brings a new flavor to council. He is smart, so smart, and so financially savvy, and it has been a joy to be able to leverage that as a council member to get good policy moving forward and adjust some of the things that we're spending our tax dollars on. Rolanda is my go-to for anything that's state and federal. She immediately reached out to Jeremy Moss when we saw the cut to state statutory revenue sharing, and awesome, we actually are getting more money in different buckets instead. We're going to get more for a PD fund, and we're going to get more for a road fund, and we're actually going to come out in the black because of it, which is shocking to me. So I like y'all, and as long as we're kind to each other and act with integrity and respect, I think we'll do well.
Okay, perfect. So this brings us to the closing remarks. We're going to do it in the reverse alphabetical order. You each have 2 minutes. So let's start with Ms. Ziegler, please.
So thank you again to Fair Ferndale for hosting us. And I'm so glad that you could all be here today and to ask us such great questions. In these times that can feel a little bit chaotic, especially at the federal level, we do need people who are prepared. So you heard a little bit today about my volunteer experience. Again, you can read more about it in the questionnaire at the back, and how deeply I have invested my time in this community. Since 2019, I have invested hundreds of hours of my time, and you've probably seen me out there, right? Distributing rain barrels in the pouring down rain, giving away native seeds at Jingle and Mingle, sitting together to let's just talk about taxes, because that's the riveting topic. With some of you, I have served side by side, visiting dark mechanical rooms in the basements of our public buildings, and asking city staff to explain that complicated financial rule just one more time. What defines me is that I show up and that I do the work. I have consistently put in the time to prepare, to listen, and to follow through. And that track record should give you confidence that I will continue to work on your behalf every single day. I am bringing a combination of experience, commitment, and perspective that will serve residents well. I've taken on some of the biggest challenges in our community today: our budget on the Finance Review Committee and our buildings on the Facilities Task Force. I've also built a professional career managing money, programs, and facilities, which has given me the skills to ask tough questions and to weigh trade-offs. I am asking for your vote because I bring relevant experience, a proven work ethic, and a balanced approach that uses our resources carefully and keeps Ferndale moving forward. You can learn more about me at quinn4ferndale.com. I ask that you vote for me, Quinn Ziegler, on November 4th or sooner by absentee.
Thank you very much. Mr. Acceptable.
Thank you again, Fair Ferndale, for the Ferndale Library for hosting, and to all of you for asking such thoughtful and challenging questions. I believe local government is only as complicated as we allow it to be, and I'm excited to collaborate with our city officials and our city council in order to make that clear and accessible to our residents. When you cast your ballot on or before November 4th, I ask you to remember, my campaign has always been about more than one building. It's about building a Ferndale that works for all of us today and for generations to come. I didn't set out to run for office. My neighbors asked me to. They saw the work I was doing with the Pruitt Project, how I listen, collaborate, and follow through. Answering that call to service is an honor I take with deep care. What sets me apart is that I'm not waiting to be elected to start doing the work. I've already brought neighbors together to protect what matters to us. I started the petition, built a coalition, and proved real change happens when the community leads. That's the same spirit I'll bring to council. I'll be a community advocate who listens first, communicates in plain language, and I'll champion our strong partnerships with a dedicated city staff, DPW, police, and fire, sustaining the excellent services Ferndalians rely on while making sure we get the most out of every tax dollar. And I'll think bigger. While others settle for shifting the same dollars around, I'll be focused on growing the pot, aggressively pursuing grants, working with Lansing, and holding corporate actors like DTE accountable so we can fund the future Ferndale deserves. Our state has shown what's possible when we organize together. We protected our rights, expanded voting access, and ended gerrymandering. We can bring that same power home to invest in our kids, support our teachers, champion our workers, and care for our seniors while we build a city that truly works for everyone. These aren't just talking points, they're tangible plans, and I hope for the community to keep this, I hope for the opportunity to keep this conversation going with all of you. I'm Eddie Sabatini. I'm running for Ferndale City Council to turn these shared values into real results together. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bukowski?
So we talked a little bit about why I ran in 2019 and why I'm back. What I'm bringing now, instead of just the passion that I had in the past, is the institutional knowledge to actually get things done. What you should know about me is I'm a problem solver at heart. My career has been built cutting through noise. Finance, strategy, applications, you name it, I've done it. I don't even know what my job title is anymore. That's exactly what I bring to this role. I bring that ability to disseminate information, to get things done and get them done in a timely manner. I look at the data, I listen to the people it affects, and I make the hard decisions even when they're not popular. And there's still work left to do. We have a tree ordinance that's on the table. I've been wanting to pass it for quite some time. I want to protect our tree canopy and manage oak wilt. I want to finish cleaning up redundant software and subscriptions so that every tax dollar counts. I'll keep pushing to fix the broken state statutory revenue sharing. Again, Ferndale's lost about $24 million since 2004. And yes, we still need rat-proof trash cans. It is one of the things that's at the top of my list, and it finally made its way into our strategic plan. And if I have my way, we're going to have a third space for community members. I am so hopeful that now that we have the school back at the table, we can get this done. So, a funny quote. Dolly Parton once said, "Find out who you are and get it done, and do it on purpose." That's exactly what I've tried to do in public service. I try to show up as myself, to be transparent, and to make decisions that reflect the values of the city. Fairness, inclusion, and community. That's who we are as Ferndale. And again, I've been honored to serve. I hope that you will elect me for another 4 years. I will come back with much more gray hair at the end of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Mary would like to.
Well, thank you all for being here. I failed to mention something at the beginning. So we do have the 3 candidates running for 2 seats, a contested election. But also, you know, Ray Leeks May is on the ballot, running for mayor, a non-contested election. She was invited to be here today and was planning on being here, but called me last night and is very sick, and so could not be here. So I wanted you to know that her intention was to be here, and it was also our intention to include her. I didn't want you to think that we excluded her. We brought a present for you. On the back table, if you would pick up one of these magnets, put it on your refrigerator someplace. This was a project that Fair Ferndale did several years ago that we really pushed hard for what we called the Good Neighbor Pledge. And when I heard the answers from the candidates about getting along at the council table and collaborating, I thought, okay, this is what we want every one of our citizens to do. And this talks about ways that as a citizen in your family, in your school, wherever you go, that you can strive to be the best collaborator and understander and listener and all those things. So please take a magnet with you and think about how you might use it in your family. Also, I can't get through talking about Fair Ferndale or Citizens for Fair Ferndale without saying we're so grassy and so rootsy. You know, we're a grassroots organization. And I keep telling the other volunteers, I won't say that phrase anymore, but I always do. And I want to bring it up today because, you know, I mentioned that we started several years ago, but over time, you know, when you have the same volunteers doing things, your volunteer power kind of dwindles. And as with many small nonprofits, the whole COVID time hit us pretty hard. And so we're revving up, we're doing better. But the good news is we have several new volunteers who have jumped onto our train, and they're helping us. Several of them are in the room today, staffing the phone, collecting questions, doing all these things. So we can use more volunteers. We also are a 501c3 nonprofit, and I know you all know where that's going. If you go to our website, fairferndale.org, you will see a donate button. We don't spend a lot of money every year, but we need to spend some money to make things happen. So if you could go there, hit that donate button, even if it's only $5, $10, whatever you can give, that would help us out. And so, you know, during the forum, we always want the audience to be extremely quiet and respectful. And I think you guys did a great job of that. So now you can clap for the candidates.
We're done? All right. Thanks for watching.